Welcome everybody to our latest Game of the Month discussion, this time talking about the legendary F-Zero X. And joining me today to talk about this title is the one and only SMWiz. What up, buddy? Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So F-Zero X, this is, again, I'd consider it a legendary franchise just based on the way people talk about it, but it is not a franchise I am that personally invested in. So I've played, I think, every entry in the franchise. So the one on Super Nintendo, N64, the two on GBA, and then the GameCube version. And I've never gotten further than a couple races in on any of them, to be honest. What about you, Wiz? And again, I think I picked this copy up in 2018 at that. But what about you, Wiz? When did you first hop into the F-Zero craze?
So my introduction was F-Zero X on the N64. My brother got that, and we just got really into it. You know, it was a very different type of racing game than anything we had done. You know, like RC Pro-Am on the NES or
Oh, man.
Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. This was just an entirely different vibe. The speed, the sounds, the track design, like. But we went in all in on it. You know, like we were clearing the cups on the highest difficulties
Oh,
on
beautiful.
F-Zero X.
Beautiful. And I mean, we could tell from your little backdrop there that this title does mean quite a bit to you. At least
And
I'm
this this
assuming you don't pick
this
up the
old thing.
expansion kit if you don't care about the game.
Look. When you find out that Japan got a version that had more courses, the only reasonable thing to do is import a Nintendo 64 disk drive, get an import copy of F-Zero X to go with your 64 disk drive, you know, and just so you can play a couple more courses. You know, that's just what people do, Ice.
It's very
Everyone does.
respectable.
You're the only one
It's
here
very
who hasn't done
respectable.
that.
See, I do want to pick up an N64 disk drive, but 2020 hit and the prices went too much insane compared to what they were before. So
Oh
that
yes, I
that is a
don't even want to
dream.
look at what those are at now.
That is a
This was
that is a dream that is long shattered for me.
Yeah, that was a 2018 or 2019 splurge for me.
Oh, that was a good time to get it. They were only like what, 200, $400 back then.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, yeah, we'll go with that.
Let's go with that. No one go look up those historic prices. We're
No
gonna
one,
go with
no
that.
one, no one looks it up. No one at all. Um,
But yeah, but talking about the series in general, since you touched on kind of your experience with it too, but so yeah, this was my introduction to the series, and then they had GX come out on the GameCube, and you know I picked that up, and you know again having to master all the courses and everything. I didn't play the original F Zero until college,
oh,
and
interesting.
the two Game Boy games post college. And we'll asterisk that too, because in the U.S. it was two Game Boy games. Japan has a third one that we never got,
Oh,
but
that's
that
why I
one
thought there was three.
that one's a spicy meatball. So I do not have that in my collection. I haven't played that one. You know.
Wasn't there also like a Fox Kids like cartoon of F Zero at one point?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
I mean, there's a great clip. You can find it on YouTube of Captain Falcon, you know, Falcon punching a guy so hard that he like explodes into light and the beam is seen out both ends of the Milky Way galaxy. It's fantastic. It's the most beautiful anime punch you've ever seen.
Oh, that's great. Um, yeah, again, this really isn't a franchise that I've spent a lot of time with, but it's like I'm familiar enough with it. And I mean, I played a few more courses on F-Zero X to prepare for today's discussion, but I just got to admit, it's not the type of racing game that I've ever really gotten into. Like this and Wipeout share
Yeah.
very similar vibes, you know? And neither one of them were franchises I could get into a whole lot. Like I spent more time with Wipeout 64 than I did F-Zero X, but F-Zero X would definitely be the better game if I had to compare them directly. But again, just neither one of them are just the type of racing game I was into. It's like for me, it was all about Episode One Racer, Mario Kart. Um, I wanted to like Diddy Kong Racing, but I just don't. Is there as well. So let's just get all the hate coming into me on the comment section here. I'm not a
I
personal
was
fan
like,
of F-Zero or Diddy Kong Racing.
we should probably pause for a moment for people to go get the pitchforks and then come back.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I mean, they can hit the pause button themselves too, but
Yeah, that
anyway.
works, I suppose.
But that being said, it doesn't mean I don't appreciate what F-Zero X does on the N64, though, because this game is actually quite amazing technically, because it has 30 racers in like per track in an N64 game. Like, absurd. Just an absurd amount of racers for N64 times. Like, nowadays, sure, like, that seems standard enough, but, like, look at what the contemporaries were doing on N64. It's like Mario Kart, 8 players, 8 racers. Diddy Kong Racing, I think that one also had 8 racers. Maybe it was 10, I don't remember. Episode 1 Racer had, I think, like 12. And then, I don't know, like most of the Top Gear games were about 8 or 10. It's like nothing came close to what F-Zero X is pulling off.
Yeah, I think the Cruisin' series had a similar number, right?
Yeah, they were about, I don't know, I feel like that
10?
one almost got up to 20. Maybe 15-ish, 20-ish?
Maybe. I thought it had a dozen, but it's been too long since I played, so don't quote me on it.
I haven't touched the Cruisin', I haven't touched any of the Cruisin' games or the San Francisco Rush games in a while. Because I think those ones were a bit higher too, maybe 10 or 12 as well. It's all right. Someone will come in with a pitchfork and correct us here. It's okay.
That's all right. We could take a moment to go to Google if we cared enough, but we don't care, so we won't.
No, we want to talk about F-Zero.
Yeah.
But I mean, regardless of what those other games did, this one still has the most racers on N64, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
And that, again, that's just impressive to think about on an N64 game, especially considering how well the game actually runs. Like, this is probably one of the most performant N64 games ever released. It runs at pretty much a full locked 60 FPS. So, I'm not familiar enough with the game to know if there were frame drops in some of the racetracks, but I mean, from what I've played, it's always been solid. And again, it's really just impressive to see, especially for this time period, because I mean, PS1, N64, Saturn, they were new 3D systems. Like, this is the new thing. People didn't care if frame rates were really dropping a lot, but when F-Zero comes out and is making sure it's locked to keep you that consistent performance, it's like, okay, then I see what you're doing there. That's awesome.
Yeah, this it just runs smooth. It just works.
It really
You don't
does.
feel it stuttering or slowing down while you play. I mean, you get going so fast. Like, I love when, this part of it as a kid, it was great to be like seeing, speeds in the hundreds, You're like, this is crazy. And it's like, you felt it, you're playing on your, like, anywhere between a 19 to 27 inch CRT, and you're just like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. And see, speeds that fast, like, you get those in Episode 1 Racer, but the game runs 30 and sub 30 so often, like, it doesn't feel like it, but like, you still feel like you're going fast. But then you compare it against F-Zero, and it's like, oh gosh, no, you're not. you're going so slow. And then you play the Dreamcast version of that game, it's like, oh gosh, it's so slow.
Well, and that's part of what's fun too. I mean, and at times it works against you, when you start going fast enough and all of a sudden you make a wrong turn on a course and you go from full health to just ping-ponging off all the walls and you're done.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I never really got into this franchise was the health mechanic. Like, they do it very well, and the fact that you can recharge it is also like implemented into your boosting. Like, the way they did it is very well done, but I have to say it's probably one of the reasons why I don't get into the franchise as much, because I don't want to manage it, if that makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense because I mean that's one of the things I thought was fun is that, like, there's a risk reward to it, right?
There really
you get
is.
a straightaway and you're like, okay, I can do 2 or 3 boosts here, but then in these later parts where it's going to be some tight turns, I'm really betting that I'm going to make those turns.
Yeah.
Because I might be in first, but if I hit this wall, now I have no health and I'm done.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
And
something to think about.
And that was part of it too, is, attacking an opponent, right before a straightaway to reduce their health. So it's like, yeah, go ahead and boost if you want. It's going to work against you.
I never thought of that aspect.
See, that's actually and see, you wouldn't know this about me from the way I play the Mega Man games, but, every one of those racers, they're not my opponent, they're my enemy. And I love attacking their health. It's one of the funnest aspects of this game. Every time you take out a racer and they give you a chime and a star, that's a reward. They want you doing that.
That's fair. I don't think
You
I've
know,
ever taken out a single racer in this game.
it's a lot of fun. Especially there's some tracks where you get very narrow bottlenecks. Perfect time for spin attacks or shoulder checks.
Oh man. Okay. Yes, I need to take up your recommendation to check out to do death race stuff then.
Death Race is so much fun. My only complaint with Death Race is it only has one track. They should have
Mm,
had more tracks.
yeah.
But the thing that's fun is like, yeah, so you have this mode. There's, like you said, 30 racers. You're one, so it's 1v29, and seeing how fast you can eliminate every other player.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I got mine. So this is for anyone in the comments who wants to post their time. 1 minute, 5 seconds, 67 hundredths of a second.
Wow. Okay.
105.67. That's how fast I eliminated the other 29 racers.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't think I've taken out a single one. So I mean, I'm no competition here. Um, wow. 105. Nice.
So, little over 2 seconds per racer.
Yeah, that's not bad. That is not bad at all. Dang. That's crazy. And so if you take out all the racers, does it just end the race then and there because you have no
Yes.
competition?
Yeah. Death Race. So Death Race, it doesn't end until there's only one left.
Oh, right,
It's
right,
not
right.
it's not laps.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
eliminate everybody else.
Sorry, massive brain fart moment there.
No, you're good.
Um, so I think one of the things that also stands out to me about this game is the fact that you could tune the car or the
Yes.
craft. So I mean, you could put more power into acceleration versus top speed, and finding the balance of what will work for you or in a particular track is really good. Because I mean, if you have a track that has a lot of turns, acceleration is going to be your winner because you're braking to get around those turns. So
Hmm.
then you get back up to speed quicker. But obviously, you have less top speed. So if there's a straightaway, everyone's just going to take you over really quickly. So I thought that was always a cool aspect to this game. And I really enjoy watching speed runs of this game more than actually playing it myself. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna blame Fibat for this, but when we did our Speedfast Monday and Fi showed up with F-Zero GX and showed us the speed run of that, it's like, oh, this is fun. Like, this is fun to watch. And so going back and watching the N64 version, it's like, dude, this is insane what people are able to accomplish in these games when they're going for pure speed. Like, it's crazy. Like, just seeing, like, I love the skill that is involved in it. It's like I'm never gonna get there, especially not on a title I don't care about. But like I can appreciate the crap out of it.
Yeah. And I mean, with that, so yeah, the tuning is fun. I mean, in part two, because you can set it to your level. Like, you and your friend can both like the same car, but set it to different stats.
Yep,
It's kind of how you like to play, and, even a little bit to your ability. But then it's also interesting, like you pointed out, tuning it up for different tracks. Like if you know that it's got more straightaways or more turns. And then you also throw in the extra layer of each of the cars has their own rating for different stats, like how they, handle, how their grip is, drift, and things like this.
true,
And so
true.
then you might be playing the same course you've played a bunch of times, but now you've got to rethink how you're setting acceleration and top speed based on the car's other stats.
Yeah, that is that is a good point.
Or you can just leave it at default and play it out. That's
Just go
fine
for it.
too.
That's
I was like,
usually
I
what
was
I
like,
end up
I was,
doing, to be
I was like,
honest.
we don't want to like scare anyone off from this game. It's like you don't have to get into the nitty gritty. If you want to be a speedrunner, you're gonna need to know that stuff. But if
Yep.
you're just playing for fun, default's fine.
Yeah. And I mean that's usually my go-to on it. Like I'll mess with the acceleration setting a bit, but like I'll just always just Captain Falcon, default. Okay, let's go see how far we can get. But I think I've only managed to beat one cup in this game in my entire life. Like on easy at that. Like not even shoot, I can't remember. Do they still use like the king, queen, Jack, queen, king status on this one like they do on Super Nintendo? Okay, yeah. So it's like Jack. Just barely playing like lowest difficulty, being like, all right, I'm good. Let us go. Mute City.
Yeah.
See, that's what's funny. Though. I should like this game a lot more than I do. I should be more interested in this franchise more than I am. Like, I look at every individual aspect of this franchise, and it's like, music, awesome. Concept of these cars and racing devices, awesome. Tracks, pretty awesome. Somehow Captain Falcon's an international bounty hunter doing stuff while racing. Like, I guess that's kind of cool too. Like, it makes no sense to me, but cool. And then I'm like, yeah, just don't get into it. Even though I think almost every aspect of it is pretty awesome. Like, it's just one of those things, you know? It's weird. It's weird stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on the soundtrack. The music for this game is fantastic.
Oh,
and really again, it's so surprising with how much they already crammed onto this cartridge that they had the space left for the audio assets that they did.
Yeah.
The music, and it's funny because I say tracks and it's like the race tracks, no, the soundtracks.
The music tracks.
The music tracks are just awesome, and they get you pumped, you know, and it helps like feed the experience. You like fuel the speed. Like you hear the tempo of the music, and it works. You know, talk about Mute City or Big Blue or like anything. It's just it's a game that rocks.
See, those two soundtracks for Mute City and like Big Blue are like two of my favorite to listen to on the rare occasions I still play Smash Bros.
Big Blue and Smash Brothers is great. Like that's good fight music.
Yes. But yeah, and there's a pretty diverse lineup of audio tracks within the N64 F-Zero X as well. Like it really is surprising because I don't even think this is that big of a cart. I think it's barely a 16 megabyte cart. Like it's not even a 32 or 64. Like it's like a 16 if I remember right. It's just
come out
really
pretty
surprising.
Early in the life.
Yeah, this one came out in what, 97-ish, 98?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, because then on top of it too, besides all the music, you also have, and it's just little bits, but you have even little bits of voice work. Yeah, you have a guy counting down 3, 2, 1, and then he's shouting "Go," and I'm forgetting now. He says if you wreck and die, he says something, and then he has different phrases he'll use at the end depending on how you place. So it's like.
So they got quite a few samples in there.
There are not too many N64 games that have like voiceover work included in the cartridge.
No, not many. To have it done without an unbearable level of compression was definitely rare. So I mean, even Star Fox 64, like that game was fully voiced, but like you can hear the compression pretty well in it. Didn't really bother us a whole lot back in the day, but I mean, you could hear it. And so yeah, like while there is compression on almost every N64 in terms of audio, like I think F-Zero X does it really well to the point where it's like, yeah, sure, maybe compressed, but who really cares?
Yeah, I mean, they made it sound, futuristic and sci-fi, so you don't like complain about it really.
Yeah, like maybe that's how they disguise it with some extra tinniness in there, like. Anyway, either way, like the development team behind this game was like on top of the hardware and what it was capable of. Like that's what's so impressive about it. Like it's just so well tuned for the hardware. And that's how it got that 60 FPS. That's how it's got good sound. But it does come at the cost of what they pulled off in it graphically, because no one is going to say that this is an overall graphically impressive N64 game, but that is okay because of the trade-off it gives you in performance. So like, sure, the tracks and the cars and the ambience look really basic by comparison to other games on N64, but look what that gave you in return. And I think nearly everyone would take that trade-off for what the game
Yeah,
offers.
yeah, I agree. And when you think about it too, like being that it's a racing game and a fast racing game, like you're always looking at your car and slightly ahead of you. Like that's typically where your field of vision is.
Yep,
And
yep.
so like all the stuff around the periphery doesn't matter. If you're looking at that, you're gonna crash, you know?
True
Like
enough.
that's that's just the way it is. But yeah, the models like on the car select screen, it's like yeah, you see a little bit. There was a trade-off. And, again, it was early in the life of the N64. But I mean, if you're judging an N64 game off of how sharp the graphics are, you're
You're
already
always going to
kind
be
of in the
disappointed.
weeds. You're already going to be disappointed.
See, and N64 remains one of my favorite systems despite its muddy visuals.
Mm,
Like I love the way that system looks on a CRT. Like it looks fantastic on a CRT. Like playing things on a modern widescreen looks so much worse than playing it back on a CRT. Like it's absurd to really think about, but F-Zero is one of those games where it kind of looks pretty similar on both just because of the art direction they took.
hmm
But yeah. Uh this is why I love N64 stuff, man. Like what they do with the hardware, what they choose to do between various things, between performance versus visuals, is like I love looking back on it and seeing what they chose to do, especially since it's just the beginning of the 3D era. It's why I love the history of this friggin' system, man. And this game does play a part of that, which is another reason why I'm surprised I don't like it more. This is
Yeah.
like this is like the best performing N64 game on the system, hands down. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like, so indifferent. It makes no sense. Whatever.
Just rub your indifference in everyone's face and just get all the fans mad. Like
Well, I
just
do. I
because
do.
I know I get it. It's
I
just funny
do.
because I'm part of the problem. I'm with the fans every time. Like Nintendo's like we're gonna do a direct, and I was like, F-Zero, F-Zero, please, F-Zero. Like it's like give us a new F-Zero,
See,
and it's never they're not gonna do it. Every time they're always like, oh, we don't have any ideas, we don't have anything to make it unique, and it's like, I love that you guys are always trying to innovate and evolve. Sometimes we just want more of the same. It's okay.
it's
It's
true.
okay. Just slide us one. It's like,
They gave you F-Zero tracks in Mario Kart 8. Just take it.
yeah.
See, that's the thing too, because that's what so many fans do. They're like, "New F-Zero, please." I'm like, "Why?" Franchise is dead. It's been dead since 2002. And it's like, no, I should like this franchise more and I should want it to return. But it's just like, I'm so indifferent towards it, even though I should like it. Like, I just don't understand myself when it comes to this game. Like, at least when it comes to Banjo, I understand my disdain for it. And people are like, new Banjo. It's like, no, leave it dead. There
Yeah,
we go.
there
More
was
hate
a
in the comments for me. I hate Banjo.
man, you were just doing drive-bys on everything today.
Oh, gotta farm them rage clicks, man.
Uh, but yeah, it's funny you say it's a franchise that's been dead since 2002, and I mean really though that's just because Nintendo hasn't opted to do anything with it, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And it's more like
It's like
2004. Like, let's be honest here.
yeah, because I think the Game Boy
The
games,
Game
but
Boy
also
Advance
like
games were like 2004, 2005, and then GX was what, like 2002, 2003.
something like that.
And we also forgot to mention that AX is a thing, the arcade version of GX.
Yeah, AX, which that's that's on my list of stupid purchases. If ever somehow I won the lottery, that would be one of my first stupid purchases.
Dude,
Is
it's really cool to see the AX cabinet at Muramasa's place. We'll say that. He's got the full
yeah,
AX cabinet going on. Like,
yeah. Well, and the fun thing with that too. So for anyone who doesn't know, so Sega did an arcade cabinet for F-Zero. So Nintendo and Sega like collaborated on it, and they had a GameCube memory card port in the arcade cabinet.
mm-hmm.
You could take your memory card with your F-Zero GX save data on it, plug it into the F-Zero AX console, and get some content that would save to your memory card for use at home. Stuff that you couldn't get any other way.
Yep.
And it was funny because there was an article a couple of years ago, because only just a couple of years ago, probably like 3, maybe 4 years ago, where someone finally figured out the action replay codes that you could use on F-Zero GX to unlock the AX content.
Well, you unlock all
So
of AX.
you unlocked all of AX, yeah, but this
Yeah.
is like
You,
you just
it's just the AX
it's
version.
like 15, almost 20 years just hidden in code that no one could crack.
Yeah, that's nuts to me. Like, it's on the GX disc. Like, the
Yeah.
full AX game is on the GX disc. Like, that's crazy. Just as a little side note, because of the randomness of it all, and the GameCube version of Pikmin, if you
Hmm.
decompile or you get the extracted files of that game, it actually has the Windows executable for running it in Windows as part of the development process tools. So there's a PC version of Pikmin that you can access.
That's funny.
But anyway, just random stuff that's on GameCube discs. But anyway,
Well, you mentioned another series. Did you want to dump on that one too, or you like Pikmin Slide?
it's just another franchise that I should appreciate more, but don't. I played the first three, just never beat them. Like, I don't hate them, don't like them.
Well, that's the nicest thing you've said about a non-F-Zero game in this whole time. uh,
Oh
no,
my
it's
gosh. Ridge Racer, okay? Let's just go play Ridge Racer. I don't think I've ever played a Ridge Racer game, actually. Yeah, I've never played a Ridge Racer game. That's weird.
so yeah. I mean, if we're talking though, I mean, it functionally, yeah, it's kind of a dead IP. They've
Yeah,
done ports and re-releases via the various eShops. You could
Virtual
play
Console.
Virtual Console, yeah.
See, I own
They
them all on
recent
Virtual Console. That's what's weird. I've owned every single one on Virtual Console.
Yeah, and they recently added F-Zero X to the NSO. So for anyone who has, the N64 expansion pass on that, you can play that.
Yeah, that's probably the best way
Um,
to play it these days. It's like just easiest way to play it.
Easiest way to play it, yeah. Um, it's kind of interesting, like to try and think of like what the legacy then of the series is, because you talk about it really did push what was probably possible for the N64 hardware when you've got 30 different racers going
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yep.
And, now that isn't so odd a thing, to have, a couple dozen racers in a racing game going on.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the name. There was a company that did a game a number of years ago, I think called Fast RMX.
Oh yeah, the
That,
Switch launch title.
yeah, well, so it was on the Wii U first, and then they ported it to the Switch.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And
Cool.
I mean that feels like a love letter to F-Zero. Like, if you play that, like you could see the inspirations drawn from that.
Yeah.
So
Um.
the fans are out there. They're clamoring for more.
Yeah. That's the one thing about this franchise that is keeping it alive is just how many dedicated fans are still asking for new entries because again,
20
it's
years
been well
later.
over 20 years since we've seen a new entry in this, or about 20 years that since we've seen
Mhm.
a new entry in this franchise. And new fans of Nintendo are only going to discover it through the apps, like the NSO apps these days. They're probably not going to be too. They're probably not going to care
Blown
too much
away.
about it. Like they're not going to turn into diehard Rabid fans without someone else pushing them to become that. Um, so I mean, it's literally the legacy fans that are keeping this one alive, and then speedrunners, of course, and new
Yep.
speedrunners that get into it. Um, but like, there's just I don't know how this franchise could go from pushing the systems they're on to their max. Like the Super Nintendo version was a Mode 7 powerhouse.
Yep.
The N64 version is a powerhouse for the reasons we've already discussed. The GameCube game is probably one of the like it just got such good visuals for everything that is going on screen at a time, like the
Yes.
lighting effects, the electricity effects, backgrounds, tracks, like it's a phenomenal looking game. Maybe not pushing the GameCube that hard, but again, maybe at the same time it is. I don't remember. And then even the GBA games are still very reminiscent of the Super Nintendo version and pushing that hardware for what it's worth too. So it's like it goes from being this hardware pushing, genre defining franchise into nothingness. And it wasn't even like a drawn out thing. It was just an abrupt cutoff. That's just really strange that you don't see too often. Like normally it's like, okay, well, all this stuff underperformed so much that we're just going to put it on hiatus. And I don't think F-Zero was ever really like the biggest seller, but it was a consistent seller.
Yep.
And that's why its disappearance is just so strange.
Yeah, it's more of Nintendo's very, very odd business making decisions where we don't really understand what happens behind closed doors to, greenlight or nix a project.
Yeah. Now, I know official reasons have been given that Mario Kart sells better, so they want to focus their efforts on Mario Kart, and like that's fine, but there's enough room for both to still exist.
They're different enough.
Yeah, they're not the same thing.
No. It's like Nintendo has more than one platformer. They have,
Yeah.
Can
you imagine? Like, okay, if we could only have one of the same genre, okay, buy Donkey Kong. Wait, maybe that wouldn't be such a bad. Wait, no.
Yeah, go ahead. Make more people angry. Just dump on Donkey Kong while you're at it.
I'm kidding.
But that's okay. Donkey Kong hasn't had a brand new game since 2013 anyways.
That's true. Donkey Kong's pretty much on hiatus too, 10 years.
Tropical Freeze, yeah. We got a port,
Port for the Switch. Both of those got ported to Switch now, didn't they? Or is Donkey Kong Country Returns still only on 3DS and Wii?
Returns is only on Wii and 3DS.
Okay, so it didn't get a
Tropical
Switch port.
Freeze jumped from Wii U to Switch.
Okay.
But, yep.
All right. Yeah, and I mean, same thing with Star Fox. I mean, at least in Star Fox's case, like we had that steady sales decline show up across the franchise that made it make sense that it went on hiatus. They gave it one final push on Wii U. It did terribly. So, like, that one being gone makes sense.
That is a game. So now it's my turn for a drive-by. Because I love the earlier Star Fox games, but Star Fox Zero on the Wii U, how in the world did that get out of Nintendo's door? Those controls are so awful and unintuitive. The controls are the enemy of the game. It's not the ships that are shooting you. It's not the things you're running into because you can't pilot your ship. It's the control schema for that game. Yeah, you know what everybody wants to do? Everybody wants to hold their Wii U like out at arm's length. And when they want to look, they'll physically move like this. But to move the ship, their thumb's gonna be right here, and they'll do this. Where they look is not where they're gonna go. It's
so dumb.
Really, Nintendo. Like, you shipped this. Like, you thought this was a good idea. I can understand.
Props for trying something new, but no.
Well, the thing is, on the whiteboard though, I understand. On the whiteboard, you could write that down and be like, yeah, that's cool. And then you start doing your proof of concept, and you're like, actually, this is super unintuitive, and people are not going to like it. And that's when you move on,
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. But, yeah. So, I mean, F-Zero's disappearance really sucks, considering how consistent it did sell. Like, the last entry came out on GameCube and Game Boy Advance. Like, we didn't see anything about it on Wii. We didn't see anything on it on Wii U. And, of course, we haven't seen anything about it on Switch, other than the aforementioned Virtual Console and NSO app re-releases. So it just really doesn't make sense how it just vanished overnight.
Yeah.
And it's too bad. Like, even though I can't get into it, I still think that is too bad.
Yeah, well, you know what? Me and the other fans, we're going to keep saying it, and then someday we'll, like Pokemon Snap, we'll bring it back from the dead for no justifiable reason whatsoever, other than we kept asking for it over and over and over again.
get Mother 3 while you're at it, because there's another franchise I could give no cares about, but I know people want it.
More drive-bys.
I love every time Reggie posts on Twitter about Mother 3, dude. Like, I'm sorry, he posts about it like
So
every so
much.
often, and it's just
He
like
does.
that joke is incredible at this point. Like, oh, so good.
Reggie's kicking them while they're down.
It's so good, dude. But yeah, so even though I'm not personally a big fan of F-Zero as a franchise or any of its individual ones, like, I do appreciate what every single one of the franchise entries of F-Zero does. Like, again, I feel like I should be a huge fan of this franchise. I don't know why I'm not. But F-Zero X is a very well optimized N64 game. It is an excellent racing game. A lot of cool things that you could do in it. A lot of management you could do in it. Tracks, music, characters. Like, it really is a full package that any new player can pretty easily approach too at that, and is well worth playing even today. Like, it may not look very good by today's standards, but it is still a very solid racing game, and definitely should be played on the Virtual Console or NSO app if you don't have an N64 with a physical copy of the game. And that's really where I'm going to leave it. Like, if I had to review this game, like, even though I'm not that into it, it's like I'd still give it an 8 or 9, like, easily.
Yeah, I was going to ask for your score out of 10.
It's a well-made game. Like, it is a fantastically well-made game. It might not be my game, but it is a well-made game. And I appreciate what it does, and I appreciate what it has done for its fans, and I appreciate its legacy for what it did on the system it was made for. Does that mean I like to play it? No, not so much. But hey, I think everyone should at least give it a try, and you'd probably be a big fan of it if you're into racing games, if you're into futuristic racing games. Like, it really does excel at what it does. I just don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, I have an obvious affinity for it. I think that I would probably give it an 8.5. It does a lot incredibly well. There's some places where it'll feel slightly dated for new and people coming into it, but I think that the core mechanics of it are strong enough, and it has enough virtues to make it worth trying today.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that.
And then after you've played it on NSO and you think you like it, online order 64DD, 64DD expansion, and Japanese version, because the US version won't work with your 64DD. So 3 small purchases, and then you can play a couple more tracks that no one else is playing on NSO.
That no one is playing. That would have been cool if they had included the expansion pass on the Japanese NSO app, but I don't think they did.
I don't think they did. I mean, really, they should have just, it's like, look, you could hire a translator and, patch it up. It's like, it's time to put the 64DD content on NSO. You know?
It really is. There's so little of it. It's sad.
Yeah, it's like, and not all of it needs to be there. I'll say we don't need all the Mario Paint games on there, but it's like when you got, Ocarina of Time and F-Zero X have 64DD exclusive content. It's like, put that on there.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, man. I mean, Master Quest was so good. I'm glad that finally came out, though, in North America.
Yes.
Like, that was so cool. And it's great to, like, dump the ROM of that from the Master Quest ROM on, like, the Wii U eShops, or the GameCube disc if you can manage to dump it from that. Then you patch it back to original N64 button mappings and load it up on a cart. Like, it's glorious. It's glorious. But, yeah. F-Zero X, final words. What do you got for us, Wiz? Play it, skip it.
Yeah, play it. It's a fast-paced racer with great music and fun gameplay. And, you can be a pacifist racer like Ice, or you can be, bloodthirsty racer like me, and you'll have fun either way.
Excellent. So, I'm going to agree. Definitely a game everyone should try out. Might not be for you. might become your next favorite thing in the world. But definitely should try it out. Bug Nintendo, get a new entry in this franchise release, make all the fans happy. But yeah, let's go ahead and call it here for this one. F0X, thank you for what you have done for fans and history buffs of the N64 like myself. Wiz, thank you so much for joining me today during this Game of the Month discussion. We are starting the year off, our second year of Game of the Month off strong here, so this is awesome. So we'll pick a new game in Discord, and as always, if you want to hop in on the Game of the Month discussions, feel free to leave comments, join us in the Discord to talk about that month's game, and then join us in the video discussion itself. But till next time, everybody, take it easy.
See you.